EIV Overview and Existing Tenant Search, class code SS 3.1, revised May 2019. What is EIV? EIV stands for the Enterprise Income Verification. What this system does is it compares tenant data from various sources, such as the income data from the most recent 5/9, member information from the 5/9. That member information is the name, social security number, and date of birth. It also pulls in information from the Department of Health and Human Services National Directory of New Hires. This data is wages and unemployment. And also the Social Security Administration for member information and Social Security or other federal benefit data. This is the EIV main page. You'll see information here regarding when the data was last refreshed, as well as any other announcements and warnings, such as when the system will be down for maintenance. So we suggest that you always read these announcements when you sign in to EIV. There are two different categories of EIV reports: verification reports and income reports. The verification reports focus on subsidy status, personal identifiers, and dates of deaths submitted on the 5/9. Income reports look mainly at income information such as wages, unemployment, Social Security, or other federal benefits, and compares this income information to the income information on the most recent 50059. So if you've used any EIV reports in the past, you may be able to guess the name of one of the verification reports, such as the multiple subsidy report or identity verification. Income reports you may be familiar with. There is an EIV report called the income report. There's also the income discrepancy report. EIV report timing. If you've run EIV in the past, you may find that SHP's policy regarding the frequency of running EIV to be slightly different from previous companies that you've worked for. So please be sure that you're familiar with the SHP EIV policy. There are some reports that we run on a monthly basis, some that we run on a quarterly basis, and there are a few that I run at other times. So of the verification reports, the first is the existing tenant search, and this is the only EIV report run prior to move-in, and this is run for all household members, so not just adults and not just the head of household. The other verification reports are the multiple subsidy, identity verification, and deceased tenants, and these are all run on a monthly basis. Of the income reports, the new hires, the no income on the 50059, and the no income reported by HHS or SSA are all run quarterly, whereas the income report and income discrepancy report are both run within 90 and then again within 180 days of the move-in or IC certification being transmitted to tracks, as well as at the time of an AR or IR certification processing. So as a summary of EIV requirements, prior to admission, we will run the existing tenant search for all members of the household and place this in the tenant file. So that household is approved for admission within 90 and then again within 180 days of the move-in or initial certification being transmitted to tracks. We will print the summary, income, and income discrepancy report for the household and place this in the tenant file. This becomes part of the move-in file in Section 5 of your Section 8 folder. If there are discrepancies, you'll send the household the EIV 10-day letter, have the members complete the EIV acknowledgement of accuracy form, and address any findings within 30 days. At the time of either an annual or interim recertification, you'll print both the income and income discrepancy reports for the household, placed in the tenant file. These reports become part of that certification and should be placed according to your file order checklist. You'll review the reports with the household, have the members complete the EIV acknowledgement of accuracy form, and address any discrepancies within 30 days. On a monthly basis, you will generate the multiple subsidy, identity verification, and deceased tenants reports, as well as update your logs, the recurring error log and new admissions log. On a quarterly basis, and SHP's policy is that quarterly reports are run in January, April, July, and October. You will run all monthly reports, as well as the new hires report, the no income on the 50059, and the no income reported by SSA or HHS reports. You will also update your logs, recurring error, new admission, and the quarterly income reporting log. Any discrepancies on either the monthly or quarterly reports must be addressed within 30 days. Your first step would be to send the household the EIV 10-day letter. If you cannot determine from a review of the resident file that that discrepancy is invalid, you must meet with that household, review the EIV data with the household, or if the members have not consented to disclose their EIV information to the other members, you will need to meet with each adult member separately. And that is true regardless of when you meet with that household and discuss EIV, whether that is due to a discrepancy or just regular annual recertification processing. After you've reviewed the EIV with each adult member, each adult must also complete the EIV Acknowledgement of Accuracy form. If they do not agree with the information in EIV, they should note that on the form. The next step that we'd suggest is to complete the EIV Discrepancies Worksheet, which is a helpful tool to help you work through any discrepancies that you find. Verify any information that requires third-party verification, and determine if a certification or correction is required. If you have questions on what to do, the SHP EIV Policy and Procedure document is very detailed and gives you step-by-step instructions on running the reports, what information you are reviewing the reports to find, and what to do if you see a discrepancy, what steps to take. Another helpful resource is the 4350.3 Chapter 9. HUD did revise this chapter to information about the EIV system, outlining all of HUD's requirements for use of the EIV system. You can also contact your senior manager or your compliance analyst for assistance. Saving to the network folders. As you may know, we do have a folder on the N drive for you to save your EIV reports to. And once in a while we get that question of why do you instruct us to save the report as a PDF or print to PDF instead of just scanning the report that I've printed. So if you think about some of the items that you've scanned and some of the ways that perhaps people have complained about your scans, all of those reasons you're thinking of are why we have asked people to start saving or printing to PDF. Pages sideways, crooked, half missing because the scanner didn't pick it up or it misfed, lines across the report, fuzziness, making it difficult to read. So when you print to PDF using the remote desktop, this prints it very clean and it looks just as it would on your screen without any of those scanner issues. So from the remote desktop, if you run EIV, you'll also be physically printing the EIV reports for your binder, as well as for the resident file if applicable. So to print reports to PDF to maintain these on the network drive, you'll select the printer-friendly option or file print, or Control P to get to your print options. Find the Foxit PDF printer and click Print. This will then ask you to navigate to the EIV folder, name the document, and save. So when you click Print from the remote desktop, you should see Foxit Phantom PDF Printer as one of your printer options. Click on that printer and click Print, and you'll see a pop-up similar to this, asking you where you would like to save your document. You can save your document right to your desktop and then copy-paste it into the correct EIV folder, if that's easier for you. Or use this window to navigate to the N drive to your EIV folder. Be sure that you are naming your file, something that makes this obvious what the file is. We would suggest including your state and property initials, followed by the name of the report and the date that it was run. Click Save, and that will save your report as a PDF to that folder. So moving into the existing tenant search, this is the only report used prior to move-in, and it provides information about applicants who may be receiving HUD assistance so that we can take steps to avoid dual subsidy. This report must be reviewed prior to move-in approval. So we cannot have this report be run after an applicant has been approved. It is a requirement for approval. All applicant files must contain a copy of this report for all household members. Again, all household members, with only two exceptions. The first is move-ins prior to January 31st of 2010 or between the dates of April 16th, 2010 and June 20th, 2010, when the EIV system was down and unavailable. In most cases, if you are processing a new applicant, it is going to be after 2010, and so that exception is not applicable to you. This exception would only be applicable if you are auditing resident files and you note that the existing tenant search is not in the file. If the move-in is either prior to January 31st, 2010, or between those two dates in 2010, then you do not need to worry about a missing existing tenant search. The other exception is for new residents who are exempt from the SSN disclosure requirements. Again, 99.9% of our applicants do not qualify for exemption from SSN disclosure. You can review the requirements for that in Chapter 3 of the 4350.3. The existing tenant search must be completed for all members of the household. This includes children and live-in aides. As a reminder, live-in aides are subject to all applicant screening except for income. So that includes credit, criminal, landlord references. Existing tenant search is run not just for adults and not just the head of household, all household members. So as a brief summary, this is from the SHP report matrix, which is part of our SHP policy and procedure document. The report matrix is a very helpful summary of our policy and procedure document, and we suggest that you have it as a reference when you are running your EIV reports. You'll see on the left-hand side, it states the name of the report, Existing Tenant Search, runs through a description of what that report information tells us, the frequency of when you run that report, the actions to take if you have a discrepancy on that report, and then whether this report is filed in the tenant file or the EIV binder. You'll see the same chart for all EIV reports. So to generate the existing tenant search, after you signed in to EIV on the left-hand side under verification reports, the first report you will see is existing tenant search. Simply click on that link right there. And then you will enter in each individual social security number and click get report. So if you have 5 members in a household, you are running this report 5 times. So this is for each individual. Please take note of that and be sure you are following that. Most likely you will have a report that looks like this where it says no matches found, which is great. It means the member is probably not currently receiving subsidy. It is possible that they have recently moved into subsidized housing, but this information hasn't yet reached EIV, which is why we still have our applicants completing forms indicating where they are currently living and whether or not it is subsidized. The single residency acknowledgement specifically requests this information from our applicants. So be sure if they do mark off that they're currently living somewhere subsidized, that you make note of that, because you'll still want to follow the steps for contacting the management company that I'll discuss here. So even if you have no matches found, this report must be printed and placed in the resident file. If they are currently receiving HUD subsidy, you may see a result like this. Generally, it will include the contact information for the other management company or owner where they are receiving that subsidy. If the contact information is not listed, what would you do? I would hope one of your first steps would be to look at the information that the applicant has given you. Ask that applicant, where do they live? Who's the management company? Who do you write out your rent checks to? And use Google. Google can tell us a lot. We can certainly find out the contact information for other management companies, other owners. You can even, if they know the name of the building, you can look it up and call them and say, I'm calling from another management company. I need to know who to contact about this. The single residency acknowledgement form is available on one site and in your interview forms for approval packet. The form asks that applicant to A, acknowledge they're required to provide a notice to vacate, and B, acknowledge that in the event of double subsidy, they are required to pay current market rent. So although we are preempting any double subsidy issues by alerting the household they're responsible for market rent, we do want to make sure we're taking steps to reduce those double subsidy issues. So that single residency acknowledgement, as I said, is in the interview forms for approval packet. And it looks like this. You'll see at the top they can check off where they are living. Are they currently receiving HUD assistance or a housing voucher? And then you'll see at the bottom the acknowledgement that they are responsible for paying market rent until they qualify to receive assistance. If they are currently receiving subsidy, whether you discover this on the existing tenant search or on the information the applicant has provided for you, you must follow the steps on this verification of anticipated move-out and subsidy termination form. This gets sent out to the current housing provider. So another reason you might want to make contact with them and alert them this person is planning to move onto your property, because you'll need to send that other management company or owner this form. You'll see at the bottom there that we're asking them for the date the notice to vacate was received. So have they alerted their current residents that they are planning to move? Is there an anticipated move-out date? And when is the move-out inspection scheduled for? Is it the same day? Is it the next day? What is the situation? The second page of that form, underneath the release and the penalties, is a section that I would like to bring your attention to, management use only. If they are currently receiving subsidy, we must make contact with the prior landlord on the day of move-in. And this is so that we can confirm that keys were actually returned to the prior apartment and that the move-out certification is being dated for that day that the keys were returned. That way we can ensure that our move-in is being processed for the day after, because we cannot overlap the move-in and move-out dates. We need to ensure that there is that difference. So you're going to confirm the date the keys were received and initial that you made contact with that other management company. Again, these are the steps that we are taking to be proactive to ensure that we are not running into double subsidy issues with our applicants and residents.